Welcome back. It's time now to take a look at the top business stories. Majority of Middle East CFOs optimistic about this year. Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank's auction to sell 25% stake in RHB unaffected by bidding war. And IATA cuts global airline profit forecast by half. Let's look at the equity markets first. The UAE's bourses ended the day mixed. The DFM lost 0.2% to close at 1,563 points. The majority of stocks lost. Tamwheel, for instance, fell 3.1%. Union Properties was down 0.5%. Ema Properties 0.9% and Dia Development 0.7%. Dubai Investments was one of the best performers with a plus of 3.2%. DU was up 0.3% and Gulf Finance House soared 4.6%. 126 million shares were traded, valued at 138 million dirhams. And over in the capital, the ADX gained 0.5% to close the day at 2,678 points, with the financial services sector rising the most. Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank gained 2.7%, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank 0.9%, Union National Bank 0.5%, and Bank of Sharjah 1.2%. First Gulf Bank, however, lost 0.3%. The real estate sector was also trading towards the upside, Alda Properties by 0.7% and Sur Real Estate by 1.5%. Largest loser was Abu Dhabi National Hotels, which fell 7.1% today. 61 million shares were traded, valued at 158 million dirhams. And let's now look at the GCC markets, which ended mixed today. The euro soared in trading last week, supported by the announcement on Friday that Greece will receive an additional tranche of bailout money. The single currency gained across the board, most notably against the US dollar and the British pound. To talk about this further, we are now joined by Gaurav Kashyap, head of DGCX trading at Alpari Middle East DMCC. Hi Gaurav, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Now, good news for the euro in a lot of ways, and also the US non-farm payrolls. Tell us, what happened with the euro then when we got that data?
Well, Linda, we saw a lot of upward pricing support in the Euro USD on Friday's trading session. This is for two main reasons. As you had mentioned, Greece got that confirmed 12 billion euro tranche from the EU and the IMF. But what also supported Euro USD pricing on Friday was a much negative, or weaker, I should say, weaker than expected non-farm payroll number from the US. Basically, we had a jobs number that showed that only 54,000 jobs were added. Sure, it was the 8th straight month of job gains, but it was a fifth of what was added in April when they added 240,000 jobs. Now, what we're seeing is we've had 2 consecutive weeks of extremely poor data coming out of the US economic docket. We've had poor manufacturing data. We've had lower housing data. Durable goods in the US have also dropped, and this was all capped off by a much weaker jobs report on Friday. And as a result, the US dollar became a little bit shaky. And the views that there would be an interest rate hike by the Fed by the end of 2011 has now been pushed towards some point in 2012. And of course, with all this negative data, it throws into doubt the US recovery. And now, of course, chatter about quantitative easing part 3 has emerged. And this is why we've seen the US dollar weaken.
Let's look at oil a bit closer. Now, we have OPEC meeting this week for, I think it's an annual session, and they'll be discussing output levels. What will that do to the oil price this week? What do you think?
Well, Linda, based on what we discussed in the first point, because of the whole recovery of the US being in doubt, it's also thrown the global economy's recovery also in doubt, with a lot poor manufacturing data across the board. Now, this should very naturally have a negative impact on crude, as that's one of the main benefactors of growth and output. So naturally, crude prices should remain under pressure this week. Leading up to the OPEC meeting on Wednesday, of course, if they keep an increase in production output, we will see crude prices coming under more pressure. But if they manage to keep their production output on hold, which is what we're expecting, we can see anywhere from $3 to $5 on the upside in crude. But crude prices will remain under pressure until that announcement on Wednesday.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gaurav. See you next week. And now to our top stories. Over 2/3 of the Middle East chief financial officers are optimistic about their company's financial condition this year. That's according to a new report released by Deloitte. Its Middle East CFO survey showed that 82% of those questioned believe that their operating cash flow will rise this year. 63% expect an increase in mergers and acquisitions, while 43% said they are looking at potential M&A deals this year, 24% are looking at a joint venture, while 16% consider a divestiture. Additionally, 68% of the respondents said that bank borrowing is the preferred method of finance. Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank is continuing with the auction of its 25% stake in Malaysian bank RHB and won't let the planned counterbids by lenders Maybank and CIMB derail the process. The two banks won approval by Malaysia's central bank last week to begin separate merger talks with RHB, triggering a battle to potentially create Southeast Asia's biggest bank. Industry experts say that the takeover of RHB would be Asia Pacific's fourth biggest banking deal ever. Officials have confirmed that ADCB's auction will proceed as planned and will be unaffected by the competing bidders, which now also include Japan's Sumitomo Mitsui Financial Group and Carlyle, according to insiders. And now to our fast financial news. Emirates National Oil Company will not raise fuel prices according to company officials. This comes off the back of petrol shortages in a variety of outlets across the Emirates, which officials attribute to upgrades to 170 of its petrol stations. 1/3 of these upgrades have been completed so far. The 48 billion dirham mixed-use urban development project in downtown Jebel Ali is ready for infrastructure development. According to a local paper, infrastructure for the mixed-use master plan is ready and 5 plots are currently being built. The development will see the construction of 326 buildings, of which 2/3 will be residential. And after the break, we will run you through what's making the headlines in international business today.